We all know of ways to save energy in our homes. Turning off lights, turning down the thermostat in the winter, upgrading windows, and keeping the air conditioner off are some of the ways that we can use less energy and save money on our bills. But have you ever thought about a business making the same kinds of decisions?
Just like us, businesses are interested in saving money, and they know that one of the best ways to do so is by reducing energy use. We wanted to find out what kinds of changes businesses can make to save on energy, what factors they consider, and how their energy use differs from ours. We got some help from the professor of this course, David Schmidt, who gave us a little more background on this topic.
Okay, first things first. We need to define what we're talking about. Energy use is divided into 4 sectors: commercial, industrial, residential, and transportation. Commercial facilities include shops, hospitals, and office buildings. Industrial facilities are places where things are actually made, like a factory. And the way these places use energy differ in some ways from residential uses, like in your own home or apartment. This is an important topic because industrial and commercial facilities account for 50% of the nation's energy use and 46% of the energy used in Minnesota. So how does a company decide which energy-saving technologies they should invest in? A company could spend $100 on energy efficiency, and this might save them $50 per year on energy bills, resulting in a payback in 2 years, which is a great deal. However, the same $100 could be spent on some new equipment that could generate $200 per year in income, a much better deal. As a business owner, which would you choose? The thing I want to explore in this lesson is how businesses make these decisions.
We realized we could learn a lot by actually talking to businesses and learning about what factors they consider in this decision making. Along the way, we learned a bit more about what parts of industrial and commercial businesses are most energy intensive. We talked to the co-instructor of this course, Cindy McComas, who acted as our guide as we visited 2 Twin Cities-based companies, Embossing Plus, which does paper embossing and cutting for commercial use, and Nordicware, a cookware company famous for their intricate and wildly colored bundt pans. We met up with representatives of each company who were kind enough to answer some of our questions.
I am Betty Danielson. I'm the Safety and Environmental Affairs Manager at Northland Aluminum Products, otherwise known by our brand, Nordicware.
Core Mitchell, and I work for Embossing Plus.
In talking to Betty and Core, we learned about the biggest energy users in their factories. There are basically 2 categories of uses. The first category is the building environment, the climate control and lighting of an industrial facility. The second category is the actual processes in the factory, the energy used in making the machines work. The lighting and heating aspect can be addressed in a few ways, mostly by addressing issues in the building envelope, or, essentially, making sure that warm air stays in and cool air stays out in the winter, and vice versa in the summer, as well as by ensuring that warm and cool air is effectively distributed throughout the building. Embossing Plus addressed this issue in an interesting way. Thanks to an initiative from a group of University of Minnesota students taking a class with Cindy, Embossing Plus recently installed something called a big-ass fan.
So we were losing a lot of heat from our shop, and it was going out the roof. So they said to kind of help that would to be installed a big fan, and that would help us, drop the heat down and kind of keep that in our shop, so we don't have to turn the furnace up so much in the winter time, because the winter is basically when we're losing all of our heat in there. So
Businesses are also trying to save money on lighting. Just like you can reduce your energy costs by switching to fluorescent or LED lighting fixtures, businesses and factories can do the same.
we have also changed our lighting out in the shop too. Lighting is important in our business. We've got to see things. And we've been changing the light bulbs to the energy efficient light bulbs. And as far as the light bulbs, that's really simple to do. You just buy the other light bulbs, the energy efficient ones. And they last longer. We're not blowing out light bulbs, especially when they're on so often. Energy efficient ones seem to last a lot longer than the standard ones do. So
people think, well, electrical, big deal, that's minor. But we have a lot of lights. With the LED lighting, we're just looking at more and more applications for LED lighting. We have a mailroom. The new lights aren't up yet, but the decision was made, immediately if we're going to redo this whole room, we're going to put LED lights in it.
Heating, cooling, and lighting are not always the main energy users in a factory, but as Core said, they are relatively easy to upgrade, so businesses usually find these to be rather simple changes to make. And in a state like Minnesota, where heating costs can go through the roof in the winter months, these building envelope changes can mean serious savings.
I mean, like a couple winters ago, it was beastly cold, and so we noticed that our heating costs were way up there. So that was something that we had to take a look at. You know, where can we cut some corners?
The other way that facilities save energy is even more substantial: energy use in processes. 62% of energy is used in what are called core manufacturing processes, which includes compressed air, fans, pumps and motors, steam systems, and heat processing. Because industries are such big energy users, switching to more efficient technologies can have a huge impact on energy use in the United States.
We wanted to take a closer look at one of these core manufacturing processes. We found that factories, including Nordic Ware and Embossing Plus, use a lot of what's called compressed air to perform many manufacturing operations. Cindy explained to us just exactly what it did.
In the industrial area, the primary energy operations in manufacturing are generally pumps, motors, fans, and compressed air. Compressed air being probably the more common one, and motors, and compressed air is just used to run so many things in a company, whether it's small or large. Almost all of them have a compressor of some size. So compressed air is just taking a volume of air and compressing it down and pushing it through a piping system to deliver it to a piece of equipment or a tool or something that is using compressed air in the plant through a series of piping. In the Embossing Plus, a lot of the equipment that we saw is using compressed air to move things around, move paper. In the painting operation, it's pushing paint through the paint guns. In power tools, it's powering the power tools.
Compressing the air is done with electric motors, and these systems can be really inefficient without proper maintenance.
We use a lot of compressed air in all departments. And the compressed air, you know, we want to make sure that on an annual basis we have our compressors evaluated, and we fix air leaks when we can. When we see something leaking, or usually you hear it leaking, then we can get maintenance to take care of it if the department can't do it themselves.
An audible leak might cost a company $700 a year. So regularly checking for and fixing leaks is very important.
We changed our air compression as well. All of our machines require forced air to run, and we purchased and installed a more efficient unit. So, you know, just making that switch, we've noticed that the one compressor takes care of our entire shop.
But this is the unit right here for all the air compression. So basically they had to come in and just run lines to every press that we have here for all the compressed air. So before we had two, you know, there was basically one for that side of the shop and one for this side of the shop, and now we're down to one. So electricity-wise, it's a big savings there.
This new air compressor uses an electric motor with a variable frequency drive to help match the compressor output to the needs of the shop. Variable frequency drives are a newer technology that have a lot of applications related to energy efficiency.
We're in the process of switching all of the motors, the fan motors on the spray booths, to VFDs, variable frequency drive motors. But what we found out when we put a new paint line in and put VFDs on it right away was when the filters were clean, by keeping that flow a little bit slower, we not only saved paint because it wasn't being drawn away from the part as quickly, we also found that the booth filters were lasting longer. So the savings were there from reduced waste costs and reduced raw materials. So they were like, wow, this is great, let's do it on all the lines.
Each press based on its size, uses a different amount of air. Like our smaller presses don't use as much air as our large presses, obviously. So they can regulate that from their press, how much air they're going to be using. And plus this can distribute it evenly throughout the whole shop. Each press, in order to run, has to have air to pick up the sheet and deliver it. So that compressed air, based on the weight of the paper, or what kind of substrate you're using, it varies. So now each operator can just adjust that accordingly.
Now that we learned some of the ways that industrial businesses use energy, we wanted to know how they made the decisions that they made. The bottom line? The most important consideration for a company is their bottom line. Businesses must be profitable.
Probably the top thing in business is always the dollar. So we were very concerned on where we could reduce our costs. You know, your company is always looking, at their bottom line.
Just like opening your energy bill each month might encourage you to turn off lights when you leave a room, companies are also motivated to change because of those big energy bills.
I would say it ranges from, let's just say our XL bill would be anywhere from $1,500 a month to $3,000. Obviously it's not our largest. You know what? It probably is our largest bill now to come to think of it, because that's what we utilize the most.
Saving on energy allows companies to save money in other ways as well. For example, through some governmental policies, companies can get money back through rebates from energy companies for using less energy. In Minnesota, many companies get their electricity from XL Energy. When they install new technologies, such as a new air compressor or replacing old lights with LEDs, XL will help pay for these changes.
Another place for assistance is XL Energy.
We also get a rebate from XL. It's always nice to get a rebate back for doing something that's cost effective. So not only are you getting money back from, let's say, XL or whatever, but you're also saving money in your bottom line. And being a business where we're pretty much open 24/7, anywhere we can reduce costs is really looked at.
XL Energy and other utility companies do this in response to government mandates from the state of Minnesota. As part of the Next Generation Energy Act, utility companies must reduce energy usage each year by 1.5%. In order to do this, XL Energy provides rebates to companies for technologies that will lower the company's energy use. The rebates can help reduce the cost of the initial investment, which is an added incentive for companies. Or in some cases, utility companies will purchase green technologies for a business, and that business will pay the money back as they save money in energy use. This allows companies to use that capital investment elsewhere, which really helps to incentivize this upgrade.
Companies can also use these energy savings in order to market to consumers. Many people care about the energy footprint of the products they buy. When a consumer learns that a place like Nordic Ware or Embossing Plus cares about these things, they might be more inclined to buy from them, which ends up helping the company's bottom line.
Another reason why a company might invest in energy savings?
It's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
Plus, too, it helps the environment. And the printing industry is really active in our environment as far as recycling and things like that. So that was another factor as well.
So it seems that these companies really do care about the environment. A company probably won't invest in an energy-efficient technology that's going to lose them money in the long run. But if they can save money by doing so, this interest in doing the right thing just might tip the scales. With all of these positive reasons to invest in these energy-saving technologies, we were having trouble figuring out why a company wouldn't try to save energy. It saves them money and makes them look good, so why not? Cindy helped us understand some of the reasons.
Companies, and I think when we interviewed Core, found that their priority is running the business. They're thinking about how can they grow, how can they get new customers, how can they add product lines, or just growth area, what are the various growth areas that they can go to keep their company viable. And sometimes even though they may say that sustainability is a priority for them, and I believe it is, they just don't necessarily have the time to give it when it comes compared to getting new customers and growing. So while those are both priorities, if a lot of times the growth ones will win out over the environment or energy ones. So if you put the numbers in front of them, then they'll see the opportunities better than if they had to do it themselves.
As Cindy said, companies have a lot of economic factors to consider. For example, instead of buying a $100,000 air compressor, a company could invest that money elsewhere and potentially grow their business in other ways. They could use that money to hire another laborer or for marketing that could expand their business. At the end of the day, although a company is interested in saving money by reducing energy use, a company is also interested in maintaining a viable business, and so they have a lot of things to consider.
You can imagine a decision like this in your own life. Let's say you were thinking about buying a new $300 energy-efficient chest freezer to replace your old one. Let's say your old chest freezer uses 1,000 watts per day, and the new one will use 600 watts per day. That's a saving of 40%. Should you buy it? 400 watts per day, 0.4 kilowatt hours a day, saved at 15 cents per kilowatt hour, will save you $22 per year on your electric bill, which means it would take you about 14 years to pay off the freezer through electric savings. Now, you're also throwing away a perfectly good chest freezer. Even though you're saving money in the long run, it might be the case that the money would be better spent somewhere else. Instead of upgrading now, you could upgrade when your old chest freezer stops working. This is how companies think as well.
However, if you are a restaurant owner, you can't wait until your freezer fails to replace it, as that would be a big risk to your business. Core's air compressor is critical to his business, and they couldn't wait for it to fail, as this would stop production. Typically, these critical machines will be on a maintenance and replacement schedule for a company. The added energy savings might allow them to make that replacement decision sooner. This is sometimes seen as the cost of doing nothing, and is factored into their decision-making process. Beyond weighing operation and maintenance costs, they may also have corporate sustainability goals that need to be met, like energy reduction, water reduction, or carbon reduction. A much bigger challenge than a simple replace the freezer decision. So, now that we know the factors that a company considers when making a decision about whether or not to invest in a green technology, we can consider the steps that a company will take that might result in a more energy-efficient business. First, the company needs to find out about an inefficiency. A company can get an audit from a third party or a government agency, or just like Excel provides home energy audits that anyone can use to find out about inefficiencies in their home, Excel also provides these audits for businesses, which can help reveal potential energy savings. Then, once a company knows about potential energy saving measures, they will invest in technologies with the highest and quickest returns on investment. Basically, the faster a product can pay for itself, the more likely a business is to invest. For example, Embossing Plus picked the Big Ass fan because it would pay for itself sooner than any other option.
They researched 3 different fan companies, and this was the one that seemed to have the quickest return on it. And it was a simple thing to install. I mean, they just literally, hung a fan in there and then ran the electricity, and there we go. So it was, pretty simple to do, and it had no effect on our labor or our, didn't stop workflow or anything like that. So that was a pretty easy decision to make. I mean, it seemed like, from what we had researched, that the return, for us on that investment was really easy to make that decision. So it was, we know it's not going to be an instant, return, but once we review it after, a full year of everything in place, I'm sure we'll be able to see the savings that we made.
Now that we've discussed some of the ways an industrial facility uses energy and how they make the decision to switch to energy-saving technologies, we checked back in with David to make sure we didn't leave anything out.
There's one thing I don't think we've really explored in depth, which is why this topic should matter to us. We learned in this video a few of the ways that companies are reducing energy and the reasons they are investing the time and effort in these reductions. They can save money, they can meet the sustainability needs of their customers, or they invest because it is important to the culture of that business. What we did not discuss was why this is important for students. I think there are 2 main drivers. First is that you will be working for a company someday soon, hopefully. And as part of that company, you need to know about some of the places that a company could save energy. When you go to work for a 3M or Target, you can relay this information to them and help them become more sustainable. There are so many ways throughout a business to save energy, and you will be part of this process. The other key way that all of this information affects you is that we are all indirectly using this energy. Remember, direct energy is stuff like lights or the water for your shower, the heat in your home, or the gas in your car. But this direct energy is only half the story. The rest of your energy use is comprised of indirect energy use. Basically, all of the energy put into the things that you purchase, the food you eat, and the products you buy. Everything that Katie and Emily discussed, all of those energy efficiencies that these businesses are trying to address, are really our inefficiencies. When you buy a bun pan from Nordic Ware, you're buying all of the energy that went into it. By considering how products are made, we are gaining insight into the energy consumption of our daily life. And perhaps that will lead us to reduce our consumption of those products. By not buying something new, by holding on to a bundt pan for a few more years before buying another, you are reducing your energy use. My hope is that this lesson will encourage us to think a little bit more about energy businesses use and how this information affects and impacts us.